Jessica froze in front of the hallway mirror, studying her reflection. It felt unfamiliar. A business suit instead of her usual t-shirt, hair neatly styled, makeup on. It all seemed foreign after 3 years of being consumed by motherhood. Today was her first day back at work after maternity leave. Her stomach churned with nerves, but there was also excitement, even a thrilling sense of freedom. "Mom! Mom! Look!" Little Ethan, waving a toy airplane, burst into the hallway and nearly knocked over a nearby vase. "Careful, sweetie." She caught her son and hugged him tightly. "Mommy's going to work today, remember? You'll be with Daddy, and then Grandma will pick you up." "I don't want to stay with Daddy." Ethan pouted suddenly. "He's always on his phone." Jessica sighed. It was true. Michael had been distant lately, as if he'd built an invisible wall of gadgets, work, and evenings out with friends. When she got pregnant, things were different. He was there, supportive, making plans. But after Ethan was born, Michael started pulling away, subtly at first, then more noticeably. "Michael," she called. "Can you come here? I'm leaving." Her husband emerged slowly from the bedroom, eyes glued to his phone. "I'm heading to work. Ethan's with you until 2, then my mom will come by." "Right," he said, finally looking up. "Listen, do you have to go back now? Maybe stay home another year? Ethan's only 3. He needs his mom." Jessica felt a wave of irritation rise within her. "We've talked about this, Michael, multiple times. I want to work. I need to work. We agreed." Yeah, he muttered, returning to his phone. "Fine. Have a good day." No kiss, no good luck. Jessica exchanged a glance with Ethan, gave him a guilty smile, and walked out the door. The office greeted her with bright lights and the cool hum of air conditioning. She remembered the building differently. 3 years ago, the marketing department was on the 3rd floor. Now, according to the reception desk, it had moved to the 5th. New faces, new voices. The company had clearly grown in her absence. "Jessica, is that really you?" A familiar voice made her turn. There stood Helen, her former boss. "I'm so thrilled to see you." They hugged, and for a moment, Jessica was flooded with memories, working on projects together, staying late, celebrating successes. Back then, she felt like the world was hers. "It's great to see you too, Helen," she said. "So much has changed." "Oh, yes," Helen replied, her tone carrying a hint of something Jessica didn't like. "Come on, I'll show you around. We've got a new structure, lots of young talent. Oh, by the way, your old position is now held by Veronica. You don't know her. She's a rising star, came from a competitor." Jessica felt a pang in her chest. "And me? We found a spot for you," Helen said, overly cheerful. "In content marketing. It's booming right now, new projects, young team. You'll love it." By lunchtime, Jessica realized loving it would be tough. Her spot was a junior specialist role with a salary half of what she earned before her leave. The team consisted of 5 recent college grads who spoke in a language full of unfamiliar terms and jargon. Her tasks? She'd done similar work as a sophomore in college. At the next desk sat a vibrant young woman with a short haircut, watching Jessica with curiosity. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she introduced herself. "You must be Jessica, the one back from maternity leave? That's awesome that you decided to return." "Why decided?" Jessica asked, confused. "Well, a lot of women shift priorities after having a kid. I've seen friends go from career-driven to full-time homemaker like, poof, forever." Jessica wanted to argue that maternity leave wasn't homemaking but grueling work, yet she stayed quiet. "My situation's a bit different," she said finally. "I needed to come back, and I wanted to." "Good for you," Sarah nodded approvingly. What does your husband think? Is he supportive? Jessica recalled the morning's conversation with Michael and his sullen expression. The weeks leading up to her return had been one long argument. Ethan needs his mom around. We can't live on one salary. You could find freelance work from home. Who's going to handle the housework? He's supportive. Jessica lied. What about you? Any kids? Nope, just in the plans. Sarah shook her head. Career first, then the rest. Though my boyfriend's starting to drop hints. By 5 o'clock, Jessica was exhausted. Her head buzzed with new information and endless, "This is how we do things now" explanations. All she wanted was to crawl home and collapse. But home meant Ethan, dinner, laundry, and endless chores. Her phone pinged with a text from her friend Emily. How's the first day? Survived? I want a full report. Also, we're meeting at the library on Saturday. You know, the women's group I told you about? Come, you'll love it. Thanks, but not this Saturday, Jessica replied. Need to spend time with the family. Michael's already upset I went back to work. At home, a surprise awaited. Ethan and his grandma were in the kitchen, eagerly making dumplings. The place was a mess, but Ethan looked so happy it tugged at Jessica's heart. Mommy! He shouted, spotting her. Look, I'm making dumplings, like a real chef. Amazing, sweetie. She kissed the top of his head. You're a natural. Her mother-in-law, Margaret, gave her an appraising look. Tired? She asked, without much warmth. Michael came home drained, too. He's resting. Jessica glanced at the clock. 8 p.m. So her husband was already home, resting, while his mom watched Ethan. Typical. She peeked into the bedroom. Michael lay on the bed, scrolling through his phone, not even glancing up. Hey, she said. How was your day? Fine, he replied, eyes on the screen. Yours? Weird. Unfamiliar. They put me in a junior specialist role. He mumbled, still scrolling. So, less pay? Yeah, about half what I expected. Then why even bother going back? He finally looked at her. Hiring a nanny for Ethan will cost more than you're earning. Jessica felt a lump in her throat. Did he really not get it? It wasn't just about money. At home, she felt like she was disappearing, losing herself. 3 weeks passed. Jessica was settling into work, though home life stayed the same. Michael barely helped with Ethan and stayed late at work more often. Margaret, who came to watch Ethan, never missed a chance to note that, in her day, women managed without careers. At work, Jessica felt thrown back 5 years to when she first joined the company. Hey, Jessica, Sarah called one evening as they rode the elevator down. You look wiped. Everything okay? Just tired. Jessica tried to smile. Work, home, kid, an endless cycle. Does your husband help? Sarah frowned. You said he was supportive. Jessica hesitated. Admitting the truth meant acknowledging her life wasn't as perfect as she pretended, but she was too drained to lie. Not really, she admitted. He's used to me being home. Now he's almost resentful. Sarah shook her head. My friend went through something similar. Had a kid, stayed home 3 years, then tried going back to work. Her husband threw a fit. His cozy life was crumbling. They get used to everything revolving around them. Home, wife, chores. The second you do something for yourself, it's drama. It was so close to her situation with Michael that Jessica flinched. What happened to your friend? She got divorced. Sarah shrugged. Realized she was carrying everything. Kid, job, household. Her husband just criticized and complained. Why keep that kind of baggage? The elevator stopped, and they stepped outside. A light drizzle fell, and Jessica shivered. Don't get me wrong, Sarah added, seeing her reaction. I'm not saying divorce him. Just think about what your relationship gives you. What are you putting up with? Jessica didn't know how to respond. At home, Michael was gone, out with friends. Ethan was asleep, tucked in by the elderly neighbor who helped when Margaret couldn't. The house was quiet and empty. Jessica pulled out her phone and saw Emily's message. "Saturday's our next women's group meeting. Topic: finding yourself after maternity leave. Coming?" This time, she replied instantly, "Yes." The women's group at the library was cozy. A dozen women of different ages sat in a semicircle of chairs, sharing stories about work, kids, or hobbies. Jessica listened intently, afraid to miss a word. She'd forgotten what it felt like to sit among people who didn't demand she be a perfect mom, wife, or employee. Here, she could just be herself, free of expectations. "What keeps your soul alive?" asked a red-haired woman in her 50s with a short haircut and a warm, attentive gaze. Her name was Anna, and she'd been running the group for years. Jessica faltered. "I used to love painting and reading. I dreamed of starting a blog about life, travel, everything around me. And now? Now there's no time," she said, spreading her hands. "Work, kid, home. And your husband probably demands attention too." Anna smiled knowingly. "My husband?" Jessica paused. "Honestly, we barely talk anymore. He's distant, and since I went back to work, he's constantly unhappy." Emily, sitting beside her, squeezed her hand encouragingly. "You know, dear," Anna leaned forward, "your story sounds familiar. When a mom starts remembering her own desires, interests, and career after having a child, husbands often take it personally. They loved it when you were focused on the family nest, their comfort. Then suddenly you have your own dreams, and it's like a shock to them." "Exactly," chimed in a woman from across the room. "My ex kept saying, 'What career? You're a mom. Your place is home, kitchen, kids.' He never changed a diaper in all those years. Taking out the trash was a whole event." After the meeting, Jessica and Emily settled into a cozy cafe nearby. Jessica was trembling as if a dam had burst, releasing years of suppressed emotions. "I don't even understand what's happening to me," she said, twisting her chamomile teacup. "I kept thinking it would pass, that Michael would accept my job, that we'd find a compromise, but now you see the problem runs deeper?" Emily finished for her. "Yes," Jessica nodded. "I feel invisible, like I'm just a function. Cook, clean, take care of Ethan. But me? I'm not there." "When was the last time you and Michael really talked? Not about chores or Ethan, but about you." Jessica thought hard. When was it? A year ago? 2? Everything blurred into a haze of household tasks, petty arguments, and silent grudges. "I don't remember," she admitted. "He's always on his phone or at work. When I try to have a serious talk, he brushes it off, says he's tired, let's do it later." Those words stuck with her like a splinter. All evening, all night, she thought about them. Did she have a right to happiness? And what did it mean to take the next step? In the following weeks, Jessica began rediscovering herself. She started a blog, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. She wrote about her post-maternity struggles, the challenges of returning to work and finding balance. To her surprise, the blog gained followers quickly. Thousands of women were going through the same thing. On Saturdays, she attended the women's group, where she was met with warmth. There, she started painting again. Anna, an artist herself, offered to lead a workshop. The brush in her hand, the smell of paint, the blank canvas. It brought Jessica back to the vibrant woman she used to be, the one who dreamed, created, and lived fully. Michael noticed the changes, but reacted with irritation. "Going out again?" he asked one Saturday as she prepared to head to the group. "What about family dinner? Ethan and I barely see you." "I'll be gone 2 hours, Michael," she replied calmly. "We'll have dinner together when I'm back, and tomorrow we'll spend the whole day together. I promised Ethan a trip to the park." "That group again? What do you even do there? Gossip about husbands?" Jessica looked at him closely. His jealousy used to feel like love. Now it just felt like control. Things at work were shifting too. When her series of articles on modern motherhood caught the higher-ups' attention, everything changed. One day, the marketing director called her in. Her experience as a mom who'd navigated the challenges of maternity leave was invaluable for a company selling family products. "You understand our customers like no one else?" The director smiled. "We want you to lead a new project, a blog about modern parenting. No sugarcoating." That evening, she shared the news with Michael. He shrugged. "So you'll be home even less now?" "No." She shook her head. "I'll mostly work remotely, and the pay's better." "Well, at least the money's decent," he muttered, diving back into his phone. Jessica looked at the top of his head, once so dear, now almost a stranger's. How strange that things had changed so much. Before, she'd have cried, begged him to celebrate her success, sought his approval. Now, she felt only calm indifference and exhaustion. Part of her had already made a decision her mind hadn't yet reached. The turning point came on Ethan's 4th birthday. Jessica planned a small family party, invited the grandparents, ordered a cake, decorated the apartment. Michael promised to come home early, but predictably arrived late, just in time for the cake, with an expensive toy set for Ethan and the faint smell of alcohol. "Sorry, work thing. Couldn't leave," he mumbled, kissing her cheek. Jessica nodded silently. She'd long stopped expecting him to change or demanding his attention. Ethan was thrilled with the gift, oblivious to his father's tardiness. Michael, after presenting the toy set with flair, stepped onto the balcony with his phone for a important call. Margaret shook her head disapprovingly but said nothing. Jessica's mom helped pour tea. "Look how big you've gotten," she said warmly to Ethan. "A real grown-up." Ethan puffed up proudly and glanced at the balcony door where his dad stood. "Dad said he'd take me to the park on weekends and sign me up for soccer. Right, Mom?" Jessica froze. Michael hadn't mentioned soccer to her. They'd barely gone to the park together a couple of times last year. The party ended late. Guests left. Ethan fell asleep clutching his new toy. Jessica was cleaning up when Michael finally put down his phone and approached her. "Need help?" he asked, surprisingly gentle. She looked up, startled. In the past, such an offer would have made her heart flutter. "Thanks, I'm almost done," she replied evenly. "Listen." He leaned against the counter, looking guilty. "I know I wasn't great today. Work's been crazy, you know." "I know. But I'll do better, I promise. I told Ethan about soccer. I'll sign him up. I'll take him on weekends." Jessica carefully stacked plates in the sink. "Are you sure you'll have time?" she asked calmly. "The last 3 months you've come home late, and on weekends you're either sleeping or out with friends." "What, you keeping tabs on me now?" His tone turned sharp. "I'm busting my ass to provide for you and Ethan. Can't I even relax?" "You can, Michael," she said, wiping her hands on a towel. "Just don't make promises to Ethan you won't keep. He's 4, but he understands." "Who do you think you're talking to?" He straightened, eyes narrowing. "I'm his father. I'll decide what to promise my son. And you've been acting weird lately, always going somewhere, hanging out with people." "People?" Jessica gave a wry smile. "You mean my group? Or my coworkers? You'd know their names if you ever asked about my life." "Oh, here we go," he said venomously. "The classic you don't care about me routine. Bet they teach you that at your little group, how to nag your husband." Jessica looked at him steadily. Before, she'd have cried, tried to justify herself, prove something. Now she felt only exhaustion and a strange calm. "You're right," she said quietly. "I have changed. I'm not the woman who was afraid to upset you, who blamed herself for your anger, who thought being invisible and convenient was her duty. Yes, Michael, I've changed, and thank you for that. What? He blinked, confused. What are you talking about? I spent so long thinking the problem was me, that I wasn't trying hard enough, wasn't patient enough, wasn't attentive enough. Then I realized it's not me. It's this relationship. We've outgrown it. You want things to stay the same, me at home, handling everything, with no interests of my own. I can't live like that anymore. Michael stared at her, as if seeing her for the first time. His expression mixed shock, irritation, and fear. He wasn't used to her speaking so directly. What, you've been watching talk shows about relationships? He said with a nervous laugh. Reading women's magazines? We've outgrown it. Where do you get this stuff? Not from magazines, Michael. From life. From our life. Where we've been roommates for a year. Where you don't care about me or Ethan. Where we're each on our own. Oh, come on! He threw up his hands. I'm killing myself to provide for this family, and you're throwing it in my face. Yes, I get tired. Yes, I need to unwind sometimes. But everything I do is for you and Ethan. For us? Jessica gave a bitter smile. Really? Is that why you come home and bury yourself in your phone? Why your mom spends more time with Ethan than you do? There it is, he shouted. Now it's about my mom. What, she's not helping enough? Don't change the subject, she said firmly. This is about us. We're not a family anymore, and I don't know if we can fix it, or if I even want to. A heavy silence fell. Michael clenched his fists, his face red. He looked ready to snap back, but then his expression shifted, as if he realized she was serious. You, he faltered. You want a divorce? The word hit like a gunshot in the quiet night. Jessica had never let herself say it, even in her thoughts, but now, spoken aloud, it brought strange relief. I want us to be honest, she said finally, with each other and ourselves. Are you happy in this marriage, Michael? He opened his mouth, ready to protest, but stopped. Something like understanding flickered in his eyes. I need to check on Ethan, she said softly. We'll talk tomorrow, if you want. She left the kitchen, leaving him standing frozen. That night, they didn't sleep in the same bed. Jessica stayed with Ethan, and Michael made up the couch in the living room. In the morning, Michael was gone. A note on the kitchen table read, Went to my parents. Need to think. M. Sharp, angular letters. No love, no I'll call, no be back soon. Ethan woke up cheerful, still buzzing from the party. Jessica made breakfast, listening to his chatter about gifts and guests, her mind on the previous night. Something inside her had broken and healed, like a long festering wound finally bursting, releasing the pain. Where's Daddy? Ethan asked, noticing the emptiness. He's out on business, sweetie. He'll be back tonight. The day passed in a strange calm. They walked in the park, fed ducks, rode the carousel. Ethan talked non-stop about everything he saw. Jessica listened, answered his endless whys and whats, and thought about how these moments were worth any struggle. Michael didn't return that evening. No call, no text. Jessica tucked Ethan in and sat in the kitchen, staring into the darkness outside. She felt no panic, no despair, just a quiet sadness for the love and closeness they'd once had. When had they lost it? Could it be reclaimed? Her phone lit up with a message. She thought it was Michael, but it was Emily. How are you? How was Ethan's birthday? We're meeting at the group tomorrow. Coming? Jessica hesitated. Should she go with things so uncertain at home? But then she typed decisively, I'll be there. I really need to talk. At the women's group, Jessica heard Lisa's story, a woman whose husband left her for a younger woman. Lisa's experience made Jessica reflect on her own relationship with Michael. After the meeting, she texted him, "Can we meet tomorrow? We need to talk. Just you and me, no blame, no accusations, just an honest conversation." His reply came almost instantly. "Okay, tomorrow, 7 p.m., at the cafe by our place." He was there early, sitting by the window when she arrived. He looked worn, unshaven, a cold coffee in front of him. "Hi," Jessica said, sitting across from him. "Hi," he nodded. "How's Ethan?" "Good. He misses you." "I miss him too." A pause. In the past, she'd have scrambled to fill the silence. Now she waited, giving him space to start. He crumpled a napkin and finally looked up. "Were you serious about wanting a divorce?" "I said I wanted to be honest," she replied calmly. "And I asked if you're happy in our marriage. You didn't answer." Michael shook his head. "Are you happy?" Jessica took a deep breath. "No, not for the last few years. I thought it was just motherhood fatigue, the long maternity leave. But it's deeper. We've drifted apart. You live your life, I live mine. All we share is Ethan and the apartment." He started to argue but stopped. Understanding flickered in his eyes. "Do you think we can fix it?" he asked quietly. Jessica shrugged. "I don't know. It would mean both of us changing, a lot. And first, we need to know if we even want that." "Do you?" She thought back to their first meeting, their early years, the love that once filled her. Was any of it left? Or were they clinging to a ghost? "I don't know, Michael," she said honestly. "But I know I can't go back to how things were. I can't be the convenient wife who asks for nothing and is fine with everything. I've changed. Either our relationship changes with me or it's over," he finished. "Yes." Michael looked out the window. A light rain misted the glass. "These days at my parents'," he hesitated. "I thought a lot about how things used to be when we met, when we were expecting Ethan. I didn't notice when it all started falling apart. I guess I just got comfortable." "We both did." Jessica nodded. "We fell into a routine and didn't see how far we'd drifted. So what now? Now we decide if we want to fix it, if we're both willing to work on it, or let each other go." Michael was silent, processing her words. Then he asked suddenly, "Is there someone else? At your group? Or work?" Jessica raised her eyebrows, surprised. "No. Why would you think that?" "I don't know." He shrugged. "You've changed so much. You're different, confident, calm. You're glowing. You weren't like this before." "Because I lost myself before," she said softly. "I dissolved into motherhood, chores, this race for a perfect home and family. Now, I've found what brings me joy again. It's not another man, Michael. It's me." He stared at her, as if seeing her anew. "You really have changed," he said finally. "And I like it. You're like the woman I met years ago. Alive." "Really?" She hadn't expected that. "Yeah. And it makes me think, maybe I've changed too, and not for the better." Jessica didn't know how to respond. Outside, the rain grew heavier, drumming on the cafe's awning. People hurried by, shielding themselves with bags and newspapers. Inside, they sat in the warm cafe, finally talking, without masks, grudges, or accusations. "Maybe we should try again," Michael said unexpectedly. "But differently, from scratch." Jessica studied him. What does from scratch mean to you? I don't know, he admitted, spreading his hands. Maybe see a couples therapist? I read it can help communication, or start dating again? Like we used to, remember? When we'd goof around, talk about everything? She hadn't expected this from him. She thought he'd resist, blame her, retreat into his shell. But here he was, suggesting what she'd been afraid to say, try to save their marriage. I'm not promising I'll change overnight, he added, seeing her hesitation. But I want to try. For us, for Ethan, for you. The last word was so quiet she barely heard it, but it made her heart stir. Okay, she said finally. Let's try, but on one condition. What? We both change. I'm done putting everyone above myself, and you need to be more than a provider. Help with Ethan, care about my life, support my goals. Michael nodded. I'm in, and I don't want to lose you. When you said you might leave, I realized how much you mean to me, and how much I've screwed this up. 3 months later, Jessica sat on a park bench, watching Michael and Ethan fly a kite. The wind lifted its bright tail, and Ethan's delighted shouts filled the air. Daddy, look how high it is. Hold it tight, champ. That's it. Jessica smiled at their happy faces. The last few months hadn't been easy. They'd gone to couples therapy, learned to listen again, worked through old hurts and habits. There were setbacks, arguments, moments of doubt, but also small victories, moments of closeness they hadn't felt in years. Michael stopped staying late at work, took on more chores, and spent real time with Ethan. Most importantly, he started caring about her life, listening to her talk about work, the group, her blog. Sometimes he asked questions that showed he truly cared. Her phone buzzed with a text from Emily. How's it going? Haven't seen you at the group in a while. Jessica glanced at the screen. She'd been going to the group less often, not because Michael objected. He even offered to watch Ethan so she could go, but because her life was shifting, rebuilding, and some things felt less urgent. Doing good, she replied. I'll try to come Saturday. Watching her husband and son, Jessica felt a quiet peace. She didn't know what lay ahead, whether they'd maintain this fragile balance, this new harmony. But one thing she knew, she'd never lose herself again. She wouldn't dissolve into being just a wife or mom. She'd never forget her dreams. If their marriage could weather this, great. If not, she'd be ready for a new chapter. Not out of fear or despair, but from a deep understanding of her worth and her path. After maternity leave, she realized she didn't need Michael the way he used to be. She needed a true partner, a friend, an ally, someone who grew with her, not held her back. And Michael was starting to become that, slowly, imperfectly, but sincerely. And that was the best thing that could have happened to them both.